They were warned not to touch it. But in the highlands of northern Ethiopia, in a lightless crypt beneath the church of Saint Mary of Zion, a vault sealed for centuries was quietly opened, against every religious prohibition, against every historical warning. The men who descended into the chamber weren't treasure hunters, they were scientists, backed by a global coalition of research institutes equipped with spectral imaging gear, particle detectors, and biometric sensors, yet none of it prepared them for what was waiting inside. The Ark was real, and it was not dormant. As the seal cracked, a sound unlike anything recorded echoed through the stone corridor, low, metallic, vibrating with a frequency that caused several devices to instantly short out. Inside, the Ark didn't simply sit. It radiated, gold-plated acacia unblemished by time, two carved cherubim, wings extended, facing each other over a lid that pulsed faintly in the dark. The air thickened. One of the researchers vomited. Another began reciting Hebrew phrases he later claimed not to know. If you're still watching, you're one of the few who can handle what comes next. Like and subscribe, because what they found next was never meant to be seen. When they lifted the lid, the temperature dropped by 8 degrees. Inside was not just stone, but something stranger. Beneath the famed tablets was a flat disc the size of a dinner plate, pitch black, impossibly smooth. Touching it triggered a static charge strong enough to lift hair from 20 feet away. It wasn't listed in any ancient texts. It had no known origin. No one knew how it got there. The disc emitted a soft glow under ultraviolet light. On its surface, microscopic inscriptions etched in what appeared to be Proto-Canaanite script, but distorted. Symbols that looped back on themselves, phrases that repeated in golden ratios. When translated, the first readable line was this: "He who opens the gate without light invites the flame." Then came the second anomaly. The Ark, sealed from air for centuries, contained not decay, but life. A sealed clay vessel cradled in soft linen still held water, clear, cold, and bioluminescent. The lab analysis came back with results that contradicted every known biological constant. It contained no bacteria, no minerals, and yet it moved. Under a microscope, the water was forming patterns, pulsing geometrically, a living fluid. Within hours, satellite sensors began detecting interference centered on the chapel, a pulsing frequency in the VLF band affecting communication across 5 continents. The signal was not natural. It repeated every 7 minutes, and its waveform, when translated to image, resembled a winged figure holding a staff. Inside the Ark's inner lining was a fiber, not a thread. A woven strip made of carbonized material that predated known Ethiopian textiles by at least 3,000 years. Its molecular structure was unlike any synthetic material ever documented. But when tested under stress, it didn't tear. It vibrated. When audio was played through it, the fiber emitted a harmonic frequency that caused nearby metal to ring like a bell. The team called it a resonant veil. And still, they weren't alone. Monks from the surrounding compound began chanting outside the chapel. They had not been told what was happening, yet every word matched the inscriptions found inside, word for word, dialect intact. When questioned, they claimed dreams had warned them. One monk said he saw Solomon standing in fire, warning that the echo is waking. Then came the voice. Not spoken, not external, but registered on EEG scans in all personnel within 10 feet of the Ark. A single phrase, repeated with increasing intensity. Return it. And on the audio logs? Silence. No voice, no interference. Just an odd distortion like reversed wind. They brought in a particle physicist from CERN to investigate the energy signatures. What she found stunned everyone in the chamber. The field surrounding the Ark mimicked the decay halo of a collapsing Higgs boson, something that should only exist for trillionths of a second, now continuously pulsing within a religious relic. Not only that, it was emitting structured waveforms, patterns too precise to be natural. They weren't just observing an artifact, they were witnessing an operation. Then, beneath the inner base of the ark, a compartment long thought decorative was triggered by heat from a researcher's hand. A small panel slid open, revealing an ancient lens carved from polished crystal, wrapped in a coil of fine copper wire. This lens, when placed under infrared, revealed a hidden map burned into its structure: a desert, a star cluster, and 3 interlocking symbols, one of them identical to a glyph found on Sumerian tablets, unearthed 2,000 miles away. The coincidences ended there, because at that exact moment, power cut out across the entire region. Not just the chapel, not just Axum. The entire Tigray grid went dark. Emergency generators failed, lights died, communications fell silent. The ark remained, glowing, and when the lights returned, 10 minutes later, the crystalline disk was gone, simply vanished. No trace of theft, no breach, no disturbance to the seal. But on the walls of the vault, new writing appeared. Not carved, not painted, etched into the stone, warm to the touch, glowing faintly, and written in perfect Latin: Custos ultimus, ego dormio, neme evigils. The final guardian, I sleep. Do not wake me. The expedition had only just begun, and something had already woken up. No one spoke, not at first. They just stood in the trembling silence, facing a vault that seemed to breathe. Then someone reached out. Touched the stone. Still warm. They tried to scan the Latin phrase with LiDAR, hoping for surface irregularities. Nothing. The stone wasn't etched, it had been transmuted. The molecular lattice showed rearrangement from the inside out, like the text had crystallized through the rock. One scientist whispered it wasn't writing, it was a signature. Within an hour, a military-grade drone appeared overhead, unannounced, unregistered, and silent. It hovered for 38 seconds, then vanished beyond the hills. No one claimed responsibility. Satellite review revealed something stranger. The footage from that exact window had been wiped, replaced by static, globally. Inside the vault, the ark's temperature shifted again, not from within, but in response. Every time a researcher entered the field perimeter, the inner chamber cooled. When one removed his lead-lined gloves and approached, the ark responded with a slow, metallic hum, pulsing in sync with his breath. Biofeedback, as if it was listening. Buried beneath the stone floor, ground-penetrating radar revealed an antechamber sealed in volcanic glass. No doors, no structural seams. But there was movement, measurable, deliberate. Pressure fluctuations rippled through the basalt as if something inside were exhaling, then stopping, then exhaling again. The sound techs called it a sleeping engine. The team drilled precisely 12 millimeters into the glass and inserted a fiber optic lens. What they saw didn't make sense. A perfect obsidian sphere, suspended in the center of the room, defying gravity, spinning counterclockwise and casting no shadow. At the Vatican Observatory, an astronomer watching solar activity flagged an anomaly. A sudden drop in neutrino flux exactly synchronized with the moment the antechamber was breached. The data matched only one other event in recorded history, the Tunguska explosion of 1908. But this time, it was centered in Ethiopia. The sphere pulsed once, then split, revealing an interior lined with gold threads that formed a geometric language far older than Hebrew. One panel resembled the early Book of Enoch illustrations, but the arrangement wasn't symbolic. It was a circuit. Inside that sphere was a device, organic in design, biomechanical in function. When scanned, its core emitted a magnetic resonance that mimicked the structure of human DNA, but with an extra helix, like an upgrade waiting for activation. The lead archaeologist blacked out mid-scan. His EEG spiked into gamma-wave territory, activity usually seen only during deep meditation or near-death experiences. When he woke, he wrote down a sequence of numbers and symbols none of the team recognized. But when input into the lab's linguistic AI, the system locked up and began playing Gregorian chant. Back above ground, the locals began gathering silently near the perimeter. Not tourists, not villagers, monks. Over 100 of them walking barefoot in complete silence, carrying manuscripts sealed in beeswax and ash. When asked how they knew, they simply answered, "We were called." One of the scrolls was handed over under a strict condition that it never leave the country. It contained a diagram nearly identical to the device inside the sphere, with annotations in Ge'ez. The translation stunned the team, the instrument of breath. The throne before language. Guard it, or the sky will open. In Geneva, a classified CERN document was leaked anonymously to the research team. It detailed a 1974 incident, a failed experiment involving a high-energy resonance chamber that resulted in a localized time dilation bubble. The device they had found inside the Ark had the same resonance profile. The patterns inside the sphere began to shift after the scroll was unsealed, shapes reconfigured, lines folded. A projection emerged, not light, not hologram, but raw geometry floating in mid-air, impossible to photograph. It changed its shape every few seconds, then paused, freezing into a single, stunning image. The menorah, flanked by 2 spirals and a starburst, aligned precisely with the position of Alpha Centauri. The Ark wasn't just transmitting, it was remembering. And then came the final breach. In the church above, the guardian monk collapsed for the first time in decades. When the elders rushed in, he was muttering a single word in an unknown tongue. The word was phonetically transcribed and analyzed against known databases. It matched a phrase found only once in a fragment of copper scroll recovered near Qumran in 1952. Its rough translation: "The gate beneath the garden is awake." Below, in the vault, the copper lining of the Ark turned black, not scorched, not painted. Changed. Within seconds, a triangle formed across the Ark's lid, 3 punctures forming a perfect equilateral shape. From the center point, a thin vapor escaped, metallic, iridescent, and fragrant like burning myrrh. A sensor exposed to it corroded instantly. Skin contact caused hallucinations. One staff member saw a city made of glass. Another described a staircase rising through a sky of water. And yet no one ran, because at the heart of it all was something older than fear. The Ark was no longer passive, it was choosing, and in that choosing, the room began to change. As the vapor thickened, motion detectors captured a shift beneath the Ark, micro-tremors, rhythmic and exact, like footsteps, but not human. Each tremor coincided with a change in local electromagnetic polarity. Compasses spun, watches stopped. Static electricity lifted hair along the researchers' necks. Then, one after another, every camera lens inside the vault cracked from the inside out. The black triangle burned itself deeper into the lid. Spectrometer data showed the material had transformed into a compound unknown to modern chemistry. Part metal, part protein, part crystalline lattice. It shouldn't exist, but it pulsed like a heartbeat. A linguist cross-referencing the scrolls realized the triangle matched a rarely used ancient Hebrew character, shin, often associated with divine presence or transformation. But this one was inverted, reversed, and surrounded by microscopic script too small for the naked eye. When magnified, the text formed a fractal repeating the phrase, "Do not awaken the seat of fire." 20 meters away, the sealed obsidian chamber began to hum again, but this time it wasn't alone. The floor tiles directly beneath the chapel's altar shifted, revealing a narrow conduit carved with precision into basalt. It connected the vault to something even deeper, a sublevel not on any blueprint, church record, or satellite scan. The air pressure dropped suddenly. Lights flickered, and every monitor displayed the same image, unprompted, unconnected, a map, but not of Earth. It was a star chart overlaid with shifting glyphs and a single blinking coordinate near the constellation Serpens. Minutes later, a privately owned radio telescope in northern Chile detected a repeating signal from the same region. 3 pulses, then silence. 3 pulses, then silence. Back in Axum, the ark's surface began to reshape. Not melt, not break, reshape. The cherubim atop the lid bent inward, wings touching. Where they met, a glowing fissure appeared. A slit of golden-white light poured from within, illuminating the entire chamber with an intensity that bypassed shadow. When exposed to it, a sheet of titanium turned translucent. One of the monks stepped forward, uninvited, barefoot, silent. He removed a pendant none of them had noticed before. Inside it, a piece of cloth sealed in amber. Under UV light, the weave bore the exact same triangle burned into the ark. The man hadn't spoken a word in 14 years. Now he said one phrase, in flawless Akkadian, "You are not asking, you are remembering." Suddenly, the sphere in the lower chamber fractured, not exploded, not collapsed, fractured like ice under pressure. From within it came a single object, a coil of braided gold and obsidian, warm to the touch and pulsing faintly. DNA analysis revealed something impossible. The strands were organic, but not from any species catalogued in the known tree of life, not even close. The team's geologist flagged another anomaly. A fault line directly beneath the chapel was no longer geologically inert. It had begun to shift by millimeters each hour, forming a spiral at its projected center. Lake Tana, the reported resting place of the original tablet, the replica of the ark said to be housed in every Ethiopian church. Except, this spiral wasn't tectonic, it was engineered. In Switzerland, a classified update was issued to NATO's Rapid Response Division. Relic level event confirmed. Containment protocol escalation advised. It was the first time the phrase relic level had appeared in any global security document. Attached was a heat map of neurological activity spikes, concentrated not in Africa, but in Jerusalem. At the base of the ark, an embedded seam revealed itself, a hidden drawer, locked with 7 symbols burned into its frame. When traced with a graphite stylus, each symbol reacted by emitting a tone. Together, the tones formed a dissonant chord. It matched one recorded during an unexplained anomaly at Göbekli Tepe in 2013. The Turkish government had classified the entire event. Until now, the drawer slid open without physical contact. Inside, a parchment scroll encased in glass, written in Aramaic and what appeared to be ancient Sumerian. It spoke of 2 arks, one for man, one for memory. This, it claimed, was the second. As they read the final lines, the scroll dissolved, literally disintegrated into ash that floated upward, against gravity. The ash condensed mid-air and formed a symbol none of the team recognized. But one of the monks collapsed again, whispering as he convulsed, "The veil is cracking." Seismic sensors erupted with data. Beneath the vault, pressure readings reached critical. Then silence. Everything stopped. Light, vibration, sound, and from the depths, a tone rose. It wasn't loud, it wasn't musical, it was recognition. The ark had spoken, and someone, or something, had answered. For a moment, no one breathed. The sound wasn't heard, it was received, like a memory injected into the marrow, ancient, alien, intimate. The tone continued, not a sound, but a pressure inside the skull, like a memory that had never belonged to you. Eyes watered, some dropped to their knees. One technician tried to speak, but found his tongue paralyzed mid-word. A second tone joined it, lower, older, then a third. The pattern formed a harmonic resonance identical to one buried in Voyager 1's golden record, a frequency encoded in a 6-millisecond blip that had baffled analysts for decades. Until now, it had been dismissed as cosmic background noise. Now it echoed through the stone walls of an Ethiopian chapel. Heat signatures flared in impossible ways, triangulating in real time between Axum, Mount Sinai, and the Dome of the Rock. But not on the surface. Underground. Subterranean energy pulses at uniform intervals. 4 researchers cross-referenced the timeline and found a disturbing correlation. Each pulse coincided with major global upheavals, assassinations, market collapses, pandemics, and even the sudden deaths of 3 prominent religious leaders in 2020. The pulse was not reacting to history, it was shaping it. Inside the drawer beneath the Ark, a secondary compartment opened, one that hadn't been visible even under LiDAR. Inside was a fragment of what looked like tempered glass, etched with a helix of pulsing red dots. When scanned, it activated an internal circuit. There was no power source. It simply woke up, and it projected coordinates. Not of a place, but of a date. October 13th, 2026. No context, no message. Just the date. Pulsing. One of the researchers, an astrophysicist from Italy, collapsed. She had been cross-checking ancient Zoroastrian texts on a hunch. In the final paragraph of a fragment recovered from Yazd in 1972, she found a matching sequence of glyphs. They translated as, "The sky will fold where the ark reopens. The fourth path begins when the circle completes itself." Simultaneously, deep in the subchamber beneath the ark, the walls began to bleed. Not with blood, but with liquid mercury, flowing upward, defying gravity. The mercury curved toward the ceiling, forming lines and symbols identical to crop formations discovered in Wiltshire in 1990. Those same symbols appeared in a military satellite capture during the so-called Jericho Pulse event, an unexplained electromagnetic surge that blacked out a NATO base for 13 seconds. Then something shifted in the monk. His eyes rolled back, his body lifted 2 inches from the ground. Every microphone within 50 meters recorded the same phrase, not in his voice, not in any human voice. "The carrier has remembered." The ground shook, not an earthquake, but a vibration at a frequency that passed straight through stone and into bone. Tiles cracked. The ark rotated, on its own axis, slowly, precisely, 90 degrees. As it turned, a line of text revealed itself along its base, invisible before. Written in Proto-Canaanite script, "Prepare the vessel." It was never sealed. A sonic blast erupted, silent to the ears but powerful enough to cause nosebleeds in 3 members of the team. And with it, the obsidian sphere in the chamber's core lit up, revealing, within its depths, a structure, a staircase, descending far below known bedrock. It was not natural. It had been built or grown. Drone footage from 22 meters down revealed a room lined with mirrors, each facing inward. The reflections were wrong. In every angle, the ark appeared open, even though it remained sealed above. Inside those reflections, something moved, but only when unobserved. Above, the scroll fragments left behind by the ash cloud began to reassemble mid-air. Slowly. 1 word at a time. It formed a phrase in reverse script, legible only under red spectrum imaging. "When the name is spoken by one not born of time, the vessel will open from the other side." The team froze. One of them, a child of diaspora, adopted with no known date of birth, stood before the ark. The lid clicked, not opened, not lifted, just clicked. In that instant, a shockwave of silence spread across the region. Birds stopped, winds halted, dogs across Axum howled in unison, then went still. At the same time, sensors in CERN's underground collider registered a gap in the Higgs field, less than a millisecond, but enough to flag as an anomaly. The readings formed a spiral. From the ark, a soft vapor began to rise, no longer gold, no longer light, but something else. It carried a scent not one of them could describe, yet all recognized. And in its wake, symbols on the ceiling began to rearrange themselves into a map of the human brain, but the structures were inverted, inside out. The monk's final breath was not a word, but a sound, a tone that shook the cameras into black static. For 3 full seconds, nothing was recorded. Then, just before power restored, the lens captured a single frame, not of the ark, not of the room, but of a face, and none of them could agree on whose it was.